I hope you're the type of person that enjoys the sound of rain, because you very well may hear it in the background of this video. That's right, it is pouring down rain outside at the time that I'm recording this commentary, and I think that is fairly appropriate because there is also rain in store for the forecast of this battle in World of Warships Legends, but this kind of rain that's going to be falling in this game is of a more majestic hue. Golden in color, you see. Hot in terms of temperature. You could call it fiery. And that's because we're playing the Tier 7 Pan-European Premium Destroyer Friesland, which is a very, very good DACA boat, if you like the destroyer gunboat types. Its guns reload in under 2 seconds, actually. I think 1.5 or 1.6 seconds on this build. So it's capable of pumping out a lot of tiny HE shells, a rain of them, you might say, despite the low number of guns. And it also has no torpedoes, so all of the damage that it does has to be damage by its guns, unless it makes use of the one torpedo that comes equipped on every ship, but that's not something I advise you do with any destroyer, if you could even do it. I don't think I've rammed a lot of people with destroyers, we'll just put it that way. Nevertheless, this game, I think, is a good example of how to wrap up a game and how to not wrap up a game, and it's all going to come down to the destroyers. Now, destroyers, as I've said many times before, are the most important class in the game. They're really the ones that decide the outcome of games, and that is going to be very, very true in this battle. By the way, destroyers' value is going to be demonstrated to you in the form of your XP and credit earnings if you do a lot of damage to destroyers in a game. We're not going to finish this game with a super high damage total, but we are going to be removing damage from all 4 of the remaining enemy destroyers. 1 enemy destroyer has already gone down, to 2 of ours also having gone down. This is a problem, by the way, something I've talked about before, destroyers dying within the first 3 minutes of a match. If you can possibly avoid doing that in your destroyer, you're going to want to avoid it, because the longer you're around, the more opportunities you're going to have to influence the outcome of a game. For example, if I were to perish right now, there's no way I'd be doing any damage to this Fletcher, because as you can see, I just can't seem to line up my shots on him. Fletcher goes dark, though. We have a fire burning on him, and it's going to continue to burn, at least for a moment. Never mind, he DCP'd there. But we've done 16,000 damage to both the Black and the Fletcher. Not a lot of damage in terms of an overall damage number, but you gotta think the Black and the Fletcher, they maybe have, like, what, 20 hit points at best? So 20,000 hit points at best, so we essentially removed almost an entire full health destroyer. That's basically the same in terms of XP and credit earnings as if we removed most of the health of an entire battleship. The only difference is 16,000 is a lot smaller of an overall number than whatever most of the health of a Tier 7 battleship would be. I don't know, 50,000, 60,000? You get what I'm saying. In any case, that's going to be reflected in our XP earnings. But speaking of battleships and dealing damage to them, this poor Flanders out here, you can see he's the only enemy battleship in sight. He is shooting at me, although we do have Spartan Elite 43 directly in front of him. Why he's not shooting at Spartan, I'm not sure, but I'm not really going to complain. He only hit me there with 1 shell for overpen damage, and he's fired more than 1 shell at me. Those are shells he's not firing at Spartan or Beast X, who are in my division, and they're barely doing any damage to me, so no harm, no foul. Meanwhile, the golden showers are indeed in the forecast for this Flanders. He continues to get pummeled by our high explosives. We're looking to light another fire, but remember before we started engaging this Flanders that we had done 16,000 damage to to 2 destroyers. We're now at 46,000 damage done, and there is another fire, which I don't think that Flanders is going to be capable of extinguishing in short order. And we're just going to continue to fire on this guy. We're spotted as we do it. We're trying to make changes to our course here, mostly to avoid any potential incoming torpedoes. A lot of the time, if you're in a gunboat destroyer like this and you're spotted, and you know there are other enemy destroyers around, they might take the opportunity, if they don't fire their guns back at you, to launch torpedoes. So we want to remain unpredictable. Flanders takes a rather optimistic pot shot at us and completely misses. Turns out one of the enemy destroyers did launch torpedoes, but not at me. Instead at one of my division mates there. I'm not sure if that's Spartan or Beast, but whoever it is, they're moving up as the Flanders pushes further and further in. He takes a big hit from one of my teammates there, probably Beast or Spartan, and we're just trying to see if we can't help them finish him off, trying to dial in our aim there as we switch back to the high explosive and just pepper his superstructure, but it's Beast Tex that ends up taking out the Flanders as Spartan enters the Alpha Cap, and I'm going to return to the Alpha Cap with Spartan. Pretty important that we do take this capture circle. The enemy is about to overtake us on points. They still have 3 destroyers left alive, which is a good thing for them. It's not often you see 3 destroyers make it this far into a game in a game that is so heavily laden with destroyers, but clearly, whatever that destroyer is, either the Fletcher or the Black, I'm not sure, he can see Spartan, and so he is raining down a golden HE shower of his own on Spartan as Spartan charges in. He doesn't, however, necessarily know that I am with Spartan, and I too am charging straight for him. I've got the sonar on, so hopefully that will give Spartan any advanced warning of potential incoming torpedoes and allow me to dodge them at the same time. But the goal right now is to secure this capture circle because the enemy has overtaken us on points, and they've now made it a 3v3 with 3 destroyers versus 2 battleships and only me. The odds don't necessarily bode well, particularly if the destroyers work together, and this Fletcher is probably going to be the most difficult out of all of them because he's going to end up doing the most damage to me. Spartan chimes in there with the guns, which is very helpful. It allows us to end the Fletcher. Maybe he's not going to do the most damage to me, but he did get a couple hits there, and he's taken me down to 9k. I still have a Black and I believe an Akatsuki to square off against. As far as Spartan and I can tell, they're in the Charlie Cap. One, probably both of them. That's where their last known location was, and they've just flipped the cap. Notice they're far ahead of us on points, so there's really no need for them to engage us here. They can actually secure the win simply by sailing away from that cap circle, and maybe if they can see Spartan or I enter it, they can try to reset us by, shooting at Spartan because they'll be able to see him. But they just really need to play it safe. They're ahead on points. They're going to only increase their lead the longer they hold on to that cap. They can delay us from taking the cap without risking themselves too much, and they can just coast and win on points. But do you think they're going to do that? Of course not. They see a battleship charging in the form of the Kansas, and they want to sink their torpedoes into it, and they probably see a Friesland coming in too, and perhaps they think the 2 of them together can deal with it. But I have no intention of fighting the 2 of them together. In fact, what I want to do is spot them as soon as possible so that we can know where they're at, and so that Spartan can take a chance to shoot at them as well. I think he's got the high explosive loaded, and he does take a face full of torpedoes there, courtesy of the Akatsuki, but it seems like if I turn this corner, any one of these 2 destroyers, or both of them, are probably just going to be right there. And what do you know, there's the Akatsuki. He's not even on full health. He is pointed away toward the mouth of the channel, which is good. I think he was planning on maybe trying to escape. The only problem for him is there's no way he's going to do it fast enough, and the DPM of the Friesland just eats him alive. Now, though, we have a problem, which is a full health USS Black, And the black is essentially a Fletcher. He's got me radared. I kick on the brakes, juke one of his shots, which is good, and then I deploy my smoke screen to break his line of sight while exiting the smoke screen so that I can get a few more shots into his broadside before he goes behind the island. And simply by doing a little bit of maneuvering there and engaging that smoke screen, I think I saved myself from taking quite a bit of damage to that black. And now, after I've removed that many of the hit points from him, well, now we're more on equal footing, and if he's still going in the same direction, it means he's going to be pushing directly into me, which means he's not going to be able to engage all 5 of his guns, but I, giving broadside to him, will be able to engage all 4 of mine and utilize my full DPM, which will melt him very, very quickly. And turns out he is actually reversing and trying to get all his guns on target, but it's really not going to matter. My reload is faster than his, and he stands absolutely no chance. We're able to finish out that game simply by staying alive in our destroyer and not trying to win harder, recognizing what we needed to do and going for it. And we succeeded. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.